And welcome everyone to Authors Write Aloud. Actually, a little special edition. This is Thursday Thoughts, another new show that I have launched to talk to authors about this, that, and the other. Tonight is a very special edition, and welcome to Thursday Thoughts, where there is a new dimension beyond that which known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and summit to his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call Thursday Thoughts. Welcome, everybody. How is everyone this evening?
I'm great. How about you?
Not too bad, not too bad. I'd like to start off with a little bit of introduction and let everybody tell each other who you are so we know who is who.
Who's going first?
You are.
You can.
Oh, man. Geez, I kind of shot myself in the foot with that one there. Well, hello. Good evening, everyone on YouTube and Facebook or wherever you might be right now. Hopefully listening to us on this wonderful show. I am the Jason Lavelle, and I know that you all know my face and probably my voice already. That's okay. I'm reintroducing myself anyway. So, I write scary books. That's what I do. I like to write horror, but when I say horror, I don't want you to think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What I want you to think of is more The Shining or Pet Sematary, something that maybe gets you a little bit more involved emotionally. And I also do a little bit of fantasy, but most of my fantasy is kind of grounded in reality as well. So that's what I do. I also have a show called Spilling Ink, and you might have seen me on there. So that's all I got. I will give it to this handsome gentleman right down there.
How are you, everybody? I hope my fan is out there. Yeah? Okay. She's out
Mine
there.
hasn't shown up
I
yet.
have a fan. I can have a fan. I write fantasy, epic fantasies. I took a shot at historical fiction. Turned out pretty good, so I'm going to leave it at that and go out a winner. Yeah, and that's about it. I'm down in Homestead, Florida, where it's always summer. The hell with Philly. That's where I'm from. If you don't understand what I'm saying, I'm from Philly. I can't help it. I don't know no better. Okay, Angela.
Well, you know, I actually keep a fan in my bedroom all night, so it's just kind of watches me while I sleep. It makes me feel better. It helps me get to sleep at night. So, yeah.
I am Angela B. Chrysler, owner-founder of Brain to Books. I write fantasy and memoir and anything else that comes to mind. I am author of the Tales of the Drury series, and my website's angelabchrysler.com.
All righty. I am Richard White. You can find me at authorrichardwhite.com, and I write a whole bunch of stuff, and you know enough about me. Let's get started on the show. But before we start, I have to start this whole thing out with a little bit of a story on how this show came about this week. My dear friend Ed down here had mentioned we should do a show on world and character building. And I said, if I'm going to have Ed on, I can't have Ed on and not have Angela come on to the show with me. So him and I were
Like Cagney and Lacey.
Him and I were bantering back and forth on getting Angela summoned. So I took to Twitter, I took to text, and summoned Angela. Now, if you don't know how to summon someone, you probably shouldn't try it. 5 minutes after I posted the tweet, I got a text message from Angela. So the summoning spell worked. I don't know why and I don't know how. I don't know what world it came from, but it worked and it was absolutely great.
That explains everything now. Thank you. Do you want me to read the summons too?
Sure.
All right. So I got first a hey, next Friday night at Ireland wants to do a show world and character creation want to jump in. Followed by I conjure thee bringeth Angela back from the depths of fantasy and dystopia, spirits of air, sand, and sea. Converge to set the angel free. In the wind I send this rhyme. Bring Angela before me. Blood of our blood we summon thee. Richie.
That's fantastic.
Nice.
It was effective, obviously.
I knew if the regular text wouldn't work, the summoning must.
It was the summoning. If I had seen, I'll talk to him in an hour or two, maybe. It was the summoning. I'm like, okay, now I really have to say something.
So
well, that's one of the universal laws. If you're summoned,
you have to say something. Yeah.
I didn't know what I was getting myself into there for a while.
I'll send you like a little model of me that will be permanently perched on your shoulder.
There we go.
Yeah. That'll work.
And Ed himself, he had what was it you had? Turtle hearts and something to help with the summoning if I needed them.
I had it was something off key. It was like frog hearts and buzzard nuts.
Yes, there you go. He said, if you need them, I got frog hearts and buzzard nuts over here, if that'll help.
And you have to actually eat those before you do the summoning? Is that?
No, you wear the nuts in like a little crown. You know,
okay.
You sew them all together and you wear them like a little crown.
I just have to know, where do you have a supply store near you? Or do you send
you have to harvest them fresh.
Yeah, you put a little dead rabbit out, and when they come down, buzzard nuts.
So, anyway, onto our show. Let's get into some character building and world building. And myself, I am out in left field with this. I haven't reached that point in my writing career. But I want to reach out to you guys and see what you all think about this. I was doing some reading and light YouTube research today on world building and how much it takes to build the world prior to even writing the book. What's your take on all that?
Well, first of all, you're writing historical fiction. So you have to build a world in that time period. So you are world building because that's not the world we live in. I know Angela's got her Vikings and her Norse adventures going there, and she has to create that world. Jason has to create the world that's going to give me the heebie-jeebies. So everybody world builds. You know, everybody has to do it. It's just the level of how far you're willing to go with it. You know, Gene Roddenberry created fantastic worlds. You know, but for me, I don't need blue plants that, you know, look like, you know, puppies hanging from. No, I don't need that.
Well, and I have an important question here before I give my thoughts. Is it really pronounced memoir? Is that how you're supposed to say that?
Memoir? Is it memoir?
That's what I've been saying forever. Is it actually memoir?
Is it a memoir?
I've heard both, and not just from Angela. I've heard memoir authors use memoir.
I'm gonna ask the pro. Hey,
it
Google.
Depends.
Hey Siri, how do you pronounce memoir versus memoir? It's
memoir.
Again.
Memoir.
Yeah, memoir.
Memoir.
It depends really on how much French you have.
Wait. That's the American pronunciation. Let's go with the
Oh.
British. There's the answer. Okay.
Memoir.
So if you're British or like me, you say memoir. if you're
Memoir.
American, you say memoir.
Okay.
That's it. So
Memoir.
yeah, there.
Well, thank you, because,
You're welcome.
you know, after you introduced yourself and you said that you wrote memoirs, I got really confused. I thought that, I mean, I felt like my world was being turned upside down.
It's okay.
It was
there
tough.
really is nothing more jarring than finding out you've been mispronouncing a word your entire life and you're a writer. It's like you're held at a standard. And what do you know if you're not even pronouncing macabre right? That one was my, it's like, is it macabre? Is it macabre?
Wait, you
macabre?
mean Macroby?
No, it's macabre. That was the word that I discovered Google exists with a pronunciation guide. And I went, oh, it's macabre.
Yeah, but out of all the critics that want to make fun of those simple words like that, I'd like to sit them all down and see how many of them can actually pronounce Worcestershire sauce.
I asked my friend from Bristol. It's Worcestershire. I asked, but he's from Bristol, and that's how he says it. Now, speaking of word pronunciation, this was interesting. On the way back from North Carolina, I was telling everyone backstage, I drove up to North Carolina, had surgery, and drove back up to New York. So it was like, it's supposed to be a 9-hour drive on paper, but it was a 12-hour drive. Thank you, DC. So on the way up, I was talking about Gloucester in Massachusetts. And they have...
Gloucester, you mean?
No, it's Gloucester. It's Gloucester in Massachusetts. And what's interesting is it's also pronounced Gloucester in Britain. It is, my husband was explaining this background of the word and the etymology, and he's like, I think it's their accents. And I'm like, well, let's go to England. Let's see what they said. So I contacted Matt, who lives in Bristol, and I'm like, how do you pronounce this word? And he gave me the pronunciation back. He's like, we say Gloucester. And I'm like, okay, so it came with the ships. When the immigrants came over from Britain and they started renaming places around here, they kept the pronunciations. We went through 5 different locations: Yorkshire, Gloucester. Manchester is Manchester, which I think should be Manchester, but and Worcester. It's Worcester.
Oh yeah,
Worcester.
yeah.
That
no,
one.
I thought it was Worcester.
Yeah, Worcester.
Isn't it sound? Yeah.
Worcester, yes. Worcester, Gloucester. It really does not sit well with me. But knowing that it's not an American thing or a Boston thing, that it is just British heritage coming over, I was more open-minded and open-hearted to saying Gloucester now. So it's official, it's Gloucester. So says Brit. So now that that's cleared up, though, with pronunciations, my question for you is, Richard, is what time period have you settled on? Have you settled on a time period? And more importantly, this is big with me. More importantly, did newspapers exist in the time period that you chose?
With the historical fiction, yes, because that the time period is set in the Old West. Most of my historical fiction is in the Old West, the American Old West.
Yeah, that's a double-edged sword, because I'm thinking I did the Viking Age. There were no newspapers.
Right.
So one of the things that I did with my word building was, the very first thing I did was I dug up the old newspapers. Well, there weren't any. So I had to literally write the newspapers of the 9th century in Norway.
Oh, wow.
What would they have looked like? Oh, it's a fun exercise. It's a project that I had to do for English class in 8th, 10th grade, 12th grade, 10th grade, somewhere in there. And I revived it. It's like, oh man, I'm sitting here like, I can't believe Mrs. Dexter's coming back to haunt me. And here I am rewriting newspapers as if it were 10th grade English class. And I had to pull, well, what's in a newspaper? Wars, politics, the economy. It did so much. Now, fortunately, in my case, I had Scratch to start with. In your case, now you're talking about biased opinion. How much was politically adjusted to reflect a certain person's point of view? Now you're looking at prejudice. I can just see the newspapers just depicting, let's bring up a real sensitive topic, Native Americans during that time period, how that would have looked as opposed to the truth. So I didn't have that problem because my newspapers were pulled directly from what little was available, like wars. We know what wars did take place, kind of. We have an idea in the 9th century. kind of. We know who died. We don't really know when and if they even existed, but it's a lot. There was a lot that I had to fill in and really pull from. I don't envy you. I don't envy doing historical research on the West, because you are really, I would say, start with the newspapers and then do your best to weed out the prejudice and find the truth.
Oh,
Good luck with that nightmare.
Oh, I've actually ran into those issues in doing so.
Give it 1,000 years, because bias and prejudice seems to be dead by then. That's something I did notice. There's like no prejudice about, no one is prejudiced about Vikings 1,000 years after they're gone. So maybe wait 1,000 years and then write the book.
Well,
wait for prejudice to die.
I'm gonna have to hit that fountain of youth down there in Florida.
Okay, you know where it's
Ed's
at?
still looking.
I gave up. If it's not in between the house and the dispensary, I don't.
However, a new idea floated into my brain the other day. And yeah, that's, our lovely selves of being an author. And I put down some ideas, and I've got probably about 1,000 words written. I started writing a new story. I think it's going to be like a short story series or some fiction stuff I throw on the blog or something. But it is in a time period before the Book of Enoch. So yeah, I dug into that world and went, oh boy, now what do I do? So I am in the process.
I'm stuck.
I am in the process of writing my own book of Testament book, which it's based on vengeance and rage, because it goes along with the archangel of. Oh yeah, here we go. I'm already.
Michael, Lucifer. I don't know if Lucifer was an archangel. By the way, this data I'm pulling from Supernatural. I can't remember.
I think he was. I think he was.
Lucifer an archangel? Or are we talking about Michael or Raphael?
I think it's pronounced
painters.
Kizef.
Okay.
But anyways, how I did this is totally fictional. I went with a character, Gabriel Kizef, which is the father of the archangel Gabriel, which was.
So he's a junior. Did they call him Junior?
I don't know. I haven't got that far yet.
That's probably his nickname up, hanging out in heaven. It's just, hey, Junior.
But but the book I'm writing is the book of Ultio, and it tells the story of Gabriel Kizef and the angel of wrath and destruction. Mm-hmm. So I've got my hands full there.
I do not envy you. Christian mythology is so. Read Milton. Enjoy Milton. Oh wow! What
is that sarcastic?
It's advice. Just start with Milton. Start with Milton, and oh wow, yeah.
That's a tangled.
I have to ask the question: when you decided, hey, I have an idea, were you
drunk?
This is one of my favorite when that inspiration hits. Mythology, there's so many to choose from. Did you choose it or did it choose you? That's my question.
I gotta tell you, I think it's something that chose me, because I've been entertaining this idea for quite a while about writing something to do with archangels and stuff like that. And it's kind of the storyline that I've got, in my head is something like, I don't know, it's like a mix between The Crow and The Punisher.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds awesome.
But he was an angel, fell from heaven, became human, but was immortal.
Mythology is fun. It's I don't know anyone who deliberately sat down and said, I want to write a story with Greek myth. I don't think that ever happens. I really don't. Jason, what are you doing?
It took me a minute to figure out that it's actually the cat's tail. I thought it was like one of them little rabbit foots or something.
I know exactly what I've done it. I know exactly what that was. I'm like, oh yeah, I've done it. Did you shave her tail? You did. You shaved her tail.
We shaved everything, but I told the groomer to leave this little puff on the tail.
Why? So my sister has 2 cats, and one of them is old, and I've renamed it Toad today. This cat, it was shaved when it was like 6 weeks old for its surgery to be spayed, and the hair never grew back. Let that be a lesson to you.
Like that. My cat Maggie is like that. She's got a bikini years after her surgery.
It's not supposed to happen that way, guys.
No, it's not.
But the bad part is, of being a female, gravity. So now she looks like she's got these humongous boobs. And it's like, she's sitting in the window and they're flapping side to side. It's like, come on.
I love how we went from worldly and
yeah.
cat bellies flapping in the breeze after they've been pre-shaved.
No, not bellies,
That's
boobs,
great.
he said.
Boobs, yes.
Cat boobs.
Cat boobs. I don't think anyone, and if I'm wrong, I probably am, but I would love to have that conversation. Who sits down and goes, I want to write a story with Greek myth. It did not. It's for me, and every circumstance where I've heard, I have an idea for a story. Let me do some research, and voila, they've landed themselves in the middle of a myth they know nothing about. And before they can write the first word, they have a whole lot of research now. They have to study an entire dead religion and figure out who was who, have little flashcards, memorize everybody's name, and then 4 years later, you can begin writing.
Well, that's where, I started writing. I come up with, what little bit I have gotten.
Yeah.
And then I went, this is going to take a lot of research.
It does. And then you learn more, and you want, I really want that in my book. That would be awesome. Wouldn't it be cool if? And then you have to rewrite the entire book like 8 times. So my son started reading my book a couple nights ago. He came up to me, he goes, Mom, how long did it take you to write Dollar and Shadow? 7 years, Daniel. 7 years. And it just, because of that crap, because I learned something new, I would do research, I would start writing. And then I'd go, oh, I'm stuck. What is the weather? The Aurora Borealis was my bane. It still is. I'm started book 3, and I'm going, okay, it's December. God damn it. What is going on with the Aurora Borealis now? So I go back online. I have to look up what the charts are doing over in Norway in 3 months to figure out when the best time is, if you can see the lights. And it's so irritating. So,
wow.
Yeah, and then you've got to.
Trials of a writer.
It's horrible.
So, what was the best time? Is it late summer?
It is December. It is winter.
Oh,
it's
December!
Winter.
Wow.
Yeah, winter is the best time to see the lights.
Is that the Northern Lights?
Yeah. Yep. And it's specifically in Norway. And the further up north you go, like if you go to Troms, Norway, you can see them. I want to say you can see them year round. It's just it depends on where you are on the planet. People will plan entire trips around when they should see them. And what's gorgeous, so pictures, is when the northern lights hit the snow. And it's just like you're standing between this mirror where the lights just bounce the reflection off the snow. It's insane. It's a baby girl. So I go stupid when people bring cats on.
Oh, the first Brain to Books, I was scheduled to be on something.
I remember. And your cats were born.
The cat was having a baby she was having babies on the floor behind me. And I'm like, what the? Oh my God.
I got a text last minute, Angela, I can't make it. My cat's having kittens. Literally.
Literally on the floor behind me.
Yep.
It was like you couldn't go in a box.
In the middle of the floor.
I've got a collection of short stories coming out in January, and one of them, it's not, okay, I guess we could call it historical fiction, but it's not historical fiction. That's not the point of it. It's a short horror story, and, only about 10,000 words. And so this story takes place in 1890s Chicago. around the same time of the H.H. Holmes, the serial killer who had his little murder hotel that he had created for himself. And, I really didn't know shit about 1890s Chicago
You just
at
said
all.
H.H. Holmes?
H.H. Holmes.
Is this
Yeah.
the guy who inspired the Psycho story?
It's possible. I think that was actually kind of an amalgam of a couple different serial killers, but if you start looking into H.H. Holmes, I promise you
No,
will not be
Psycho.
disappointed.
Yeah, Psycho is Ed Gein. Holmes is America's
Yeah,
first serial killer.
he was the real deal, man.
Oh, yeah.
It was good stuff there. But
I am. I'm taking down notes. I'm going to look
You-
this
Oh,
crap
wait
up
a-
later.
Wait until you read about his house.
oh yeah, there is there's a good documentary, and I believe it's on Netflix on him. I think it's 45 minutes an hour or something like that, but it's pretty cool. It's very interesting stuff. But so I wanted a character who was living in tandem with him, but was not him because his story has been told. It's there, written in stone, and so I wanted the story of this young girl who lived during that time, and she was an orphaned girl who lived on the streets, and she happens to run into this character. But for this short 10,000 word story, I knew that I did not want to spend 6 months researching 1890s Chicago to write it. And so I didn't. What I did is I took the story that I wanted to write and I wrote it how I wanted it. But then I went back to these key points where I mentioned different important aspects of the setting. And I said, okay, now I'm going to look up this. When was the Great Fire? Okay, where was the rail yard? Okay, where are the shipping lanes? And I just took this as needed approach with that story, because if it was a novel, I would have spent a long time reading and watching documentaries about it. But, for 10,000 words, it didn't seem worth it. And I feel like what I did instead of doing more world building with that one, I actually focused more on building the world inside the character's mind.
Well, good for you.
Which really worked out pretty well. So the story is more focused in her head than it is on the surroundings. But
I would have been off on a tangent so far. But when it was done, I would have the entire historical background of Chicago, where the name came from, the etymology, and I would be trying to figure out how to work that into the story. Who cares if it's 10,000 words? Like, good for you. That's discipline.
Now, I've moved positions, but hopefully you still recognize that it is the great Jason Lavelle. I've added a great to this situation. No, what I was saying is that because we were talking about not spending a lot of time with the research in order to write a story, which is really difficult, especially when you're getting into something that's interesting. I wrote a book called Pathosis, and it was about a pathogen, which is a disease-causing agent that was spread by vectors, by spiders or mosquitoes, whatever it happened to be. And in order to write this book, I felt like I had to know everything there was to know about disease ecology and vector-borne diseases and the mosquitoes and spiders. So I did spend a year researching this book, and this book was like 55,000 words. It was a short book, okay? So I mean, you read it in 2 days. I spent a year of my life just doing the research on it. And the funny thing is, and all of us authors know this, is that you will spend hours, weeks, months, years researching, and that all amounts to usually only a couple lines, only a couple of paragraphs in a book, because you're trying to add that little bit of realism into the story for the readers, so that when they read it, they're thinking, "Oh, that's awesome," and "Oh, maybe you've taught them something," which is also a really cool thing. And it's something that I appreciate in books that I've read. I used to read a lot of Michael Crichton, and I've read a lot of James Rollins and Richard Preston, and authors like this that take real science and weave it into their stories that are otherwise fantabulous. And I always really dug that. I'm like, oh, I know some of this stuff is real. I can't wait to look up and see what it is. So that's what I try to give my readers, is just a little bit of reality, a little bit of actual fact to go along with this fantasy that I'm feeding them. So
Well,
I don't know.
I want to ask is, and all of you, when do you believe research or world building is enough? I mean, take back onto Tolkien, how many years he spent building the backstory and the world and the monsters and the characters and everything that he built before Lord of the Rings.
He built something that will last until the end of time. Okay? If you are setting out to write something that's going to be revered forever,
you do the research.
You do the fucking research.
But Richard, that question actually ties into the one that I had discussed briefly at break, that I had a question, but I want to save it. It's, when does the research go too far? Because you are going to hit a point where you're researching A Christmas Carol, Good Old King Wenceslas is the song, and then you find out in the middle of your absolutely off topic in left field, it's a king from a completely different country who was killed by some guy in a brothering country to my Norway that was a second cousin to the possible third fictitious character that I have. And that's when I went, oh, maybe I've gone too far. So you're going to do it because that's what you do. You get to a point where you're suddenly researching. You're supposed to be in Norway in the 9th century, and suddenly you're in the 12th century in Greece.
Well, my answer to that is, have you read one of George R.R. Martin's novels?
You bring up a bad topic.
I mean, come on now.
All right, I'm gonna. There's distance here, and no one knows where I live. I hated Game of Thrones. I watched season 1. I read the book one simultaneously. Everyone here is seeing it. Show of hands, because spoiler coming. I get to the part where Ned Stark dies in the book, and I went,
what?
Yeah, I know, right?
He dies?
He dies?
What? Wait, what?
Well, I read further. I'm like, well, that's it for me. I'm done. So
I knew he was going to die when I saw it was Sean Bean.
It was Sean Bean.
I was pissed. I'm like, I don't give a crap about anybody else here.
I just want to point out the fact I am part of that 1% that never read or watched it.
Ready?
So I watched 4 seasons with my wife, and then I will
say I'm glad I got to not participate in that blowout of a failure of a series.
Yes. Well, what happened with me, and what happens with every long running series that I watch, is I start to get bored with the drama, and I just want to move along the plot. I really like standalone novels. I've read lots of series, but my favorite are standalone novels because there's a beginning, a middle, and end, and I can enjoy them in a day or a month, however long it takes. But when you've got a show like that takes 10 years or 9 years or something to get through, I really start to get bored, and I can't do it.
I don't remember the last standalone novel I read.
Do you read fantasy?
I read everything, yes.
Okay. So wait, can you hear me? Because it seems like everything got really quiet on my end.
I can hear you.
My dog went upstairs, so.
Oh no, that's what it is. Well,
Angela did get a little quiet, but that was it.
I did?
Yeah, you did. You're quiet. Move that snowball a little closer.
I will move the snowball closer.
There we go. That's
all right
cool.
then.
Oh, there goes the iTunes rating. There goes the iTunes rating.
This is it for the rest of this is all you'll see of me.
Well, I want to give you a suggestion.
Yes.
And Ed and Richard and anyone who's watching this, and this is from an author who writes pretty much all series. Her name is Jacqueline Carey. She's the author of the Kushiel's Legacy series, Kushiel's Dart, her first one. And she wrote a book, just came out a year or two ago, called Starless. Starless is a fantasy, and it's an epic fantasy type fantasy. And she did something with that book that I really thought was incredible as far as fantasy authors go. She wrote a book that felt like you read an entire series in this world, only it was one standalone book. It was absolutely phenomenal. And I feel like if anyone out there is looking for world building tips, start reading books by epic fantasy authors, because we can give you all the advice in the world, but really, if you read the books, you're going to see it. You're going to see those worlds come to life before your eyes, and it's incredible, especially when you're reading the Masters.
I've got a question for you guys, and this is probably more towards Angela because she plays the game. Do you
Yes.
No.
do you think that people
track.
that play the games such as Dungeons and Dragons, Magic, some of those other games, some of the tabletop games that have world building within the game itself, does that help writers and authors write their worlds?
This
She wanted that
is my
question.
language.
Wait. Skip over her. Let's have Ed answer instead. I don't think Angela has anything to offer.
The the whole reason why we're meeting tonight is because tomorrow night's D&D.
Ooh.
That's why I'm not available Fridays.
Who's the dungeon master? Are you?
My husband. I cannot play the dungeon master because I have a problem.
Have you stopped the game and said, "Dumbass"?
No. I am the DM who sits there with a tape recorder and a full soundtrack. And when the weather changes, the music changes. If we're in the forest,
just being a good DM.
It gets better.
Yeah.
I am immersed, and I make sure everybody's immersed. And I spend an entire 6 days prior, literally, like it became my life. 6 days a week, I would sit down and compose the next stage of the story. And then we would act it all out. We would perform it. I would have flashcards, and I would be ready for any alternative. It was like choose your own adventure novel. It was great. I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm going to bring this in. And then it became my life. I really had a problem. My name is Angela, and I have not DM'd in 3 years.
That's not a problem.
It's a problem.
Keep coming back. Work if you work it.
So I do want to write one of those adventures. I could. Oh my God, is it fun? So the question is, does it help? I would say it helps my addiction. Did it help my fantasy novels, my novel writing? No. Did it hone my skills as a writer? Yes. No. Yes. It really is an addiction for me. It really was. I mean, think about this. So you're writing your book. You've got your book in your head. And you've got, okay, great. I got Rune, I got Colin. These are my people. I got Rune, I got Colin. Well, if only I had some people willing to meet me every week to perform this out for me. And there you have D&D. And I did. I had like a full cast. Like, all right, guys, you're going to play Rune. You're going to play Colin. You're going to, and it just, so did it help? Okay, D&D, DMing for D&D is writer's crack. There's really no other word for it. It's writer's crack. So you're asking a severe addict if it helped. Sure. Yeah, it helped. It absolutely helped. I need to get back to it. Yeah, it helped. It helped.
What do you think, Ed?
I have no idea how to come back after that. Look at it. She can't even drink water now. Look.
I know.
Ahead. We're all watching.
I had to bring it up.
There it is.
It's water.
Your 1940s microphone.
Did you hear me okay? I missed you guys. I really did miss you. I need to be back more often. Once a year is not enough.
No, it's not.
And I say that every year.
Well, I'll have to bug you every couple months.
We should play D&D.
Oh, boy.
Right now I am actually thinking, wait, do I want to write up scripts? Because my neighbors have D&D games going all weekend long, and I'm like, do I want to run over there and have them play out my books for me?
You know what? There is an art form to getting the right group to play. There is an art form. I'm getting serious here. I'm taking off my sweater. I'm getting serious now. There is an art form to getting the right people together. We went through, we formed a group, And it was really hard getting that right combination. People were touchy, people were bossy, people were sensitive. I was one of them. And
no, not you.
oh yeah, we finally. I have my Furball. That's my name. Furball Nix Knackle Nim Sticky Finger Sweets. That is.
Oh my God, it's a gnome.
Oh,
A gnome thief.
you know. I am a gnome. Well, I started off as a gnome bard, and no one liked my gnome bard. I was celibate, and everyone picked on my gnome bard. I whittled everything. I whittled stilts, and I would roll a d20. It was great. So I whittled my stilts, and I get my stilts on, and they're like, "Well, you're at a disadvantage." Yeah, but I'm taller. And then they kept shoving me over. So then I whittled. I got a crit on this one. I whittled Imperial Walker feet that attached to my stilts, so they couldn't knock me over. It just exploded from there, and I took a lot of abuse. Furball was very abused, and then she became a rogue, and now I'm off to a druid, and I'm trying to find the right fit, but it really, and it's a lot like this is writing related. I promise. It finding the right cast of characters and that right chemistry and that right combination to fit in with the right world really is hard. Writing is hard. It's so hard. And it just...
I want to cry too.
It's so hard.
It is. No, it really, really is.
Writing is so hard.
Where's Jason going?
That's why they made writer tears.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, you should not have brought up TV.
There goes Jason, stage left.
I know Angela plays. Let's bring it up. While we're at it, let's talk about Batman and Iron Man. I mean, what are you doing, Richard?
I'm sorry.
Iron Man.
Oh yeah.
Iron Man, all the way.
I'm outvoted, I'm outvoted, so I won't get into the subject here.
Do you know they did one of those staged fights between Captain America and Batman. Captain America and Batman. Captain America, super soldier, serum, went from this to this.
Batman,
spoiled rich kid who has a suit.
Thank you.
They made Batman win. They said
and Iron Man is a spoiled rich kid who had a suit.
But it's a better suit, and he's amazing.
But it's a better suit than Batman.
Better person. We cannot get into this right now.
So I have a question for you guys. And when I ask this, I want you to suspend all of your opinions on the previous movies, okay? And you'll see where I'm going with this shortly. So I just watched the trailer for Joaquin Phoenix as Joker for the first time yesterday. It popped up. Mm-hmm. And I generally don't like DC things very much. I'm just not a big fan of their universe, but I saw that and I was like, I almost had chills. I was like,
I know, right?
Shit.
Yeah.
I think
did the same thing. I hate DC, and I saw that and went, whoa, they're doing something
right. I'm not a big fan of DC or Joaquin Phoenix, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, when I heard about it, I said, I don't care. I'm not going to watch it. I don't want to see it. And then I saw the trailer and I was like, oh, wait a minute.
I know. I am eager. So,
I want to see how.
So I do want to talk about Batman.
Far down.
I'm sorry, Richard. This is supposed to be about writing. I want to talk about Batman for a minute.
Well, he's got a world. He's a character.
I don't know why. I really don't know why. It came up at some point, and I found out that my sister had not watched any of the Batmans. And I went, what? No. So I pulled out Michael Keaton. And I put it in, and I went back. And I went, and I never noticed. I was 14 last time I saw these movies. It reeked of Dick Tracy. Oh my God, did it reek of Dick Tracy?
That was that same time period, wasn't it?
It was.
Yes, it was.
I really want to just watch Dick Tracy now. And then I got my kids and Nick going, Nick is my sister, all of them going, well, what's Dick Tracy?
Ah.
Yep.
We have much to discuss.
Oh yeah.
You have much to learn. Sit
So I
down.
pulled up Wikipedia and I started showing them the villains in Wikipedia of Dick Tracy. And I went, oh my God, this is just like Batman's villains all over again. Like Condiment Man. It was amazing. Oh my God. It was so nostalgic. It really, I hate Batman so much. But my goodness, I do love the franchise. I really loved what they were doing when you tie it into the Dick Tracy field. It just, wow, did that take me back. I'm 40. It took me back. It was so wonderful to go back. And yeah.
You're a baby yet.
Yeah, I know.
Baby yet. I grew up with that goofy Batman in the 60s.
Oh, yeah, that wonderful crap.
I mean, it's
best.
It's entertainment, but yeah. And then I read, they're remaking Batman, and I'm thinking, I hope they make the Dark Knight. I like the dark Batman. I like the nasty, evil Batman.
I have no idea.
And then they're like Michael Keaton, and I'm like, wait, not my Night Shift Michael Keaton, the comedian. I'm like, oh man, they're gonna make it a stupid movie like the stupid TV show, and I was all depressed, and all right, it's coming out this Friday. I took my son, and let's go see this movie. Let me get it out of my system. Michael Keaton blew me away. I still think he's the best Batman.
Yeah,
I think
it was, for as long ago as that was filmed, it was conceptually it was wonderful. I think the cinematography was fantastic. Keaton was amazing.
Yeah,
and it was just so dark.
And then he comes right back, and he's a great vulture. Screw this! This man's an evil genius, and nobody knows about it.
Yeah, see, we could do a whole video on actors who are not appreciated really into their
Michael Keaton is my favorite in the role, and my number 2 is Christian Bale. The rest of them, to me, are irrelevant. Now, I'll watch them all because I love Batman. I will watch them all, but nothing beats Michael Keaton and Christian Bale because he did a good job in the Dark Knight series.
Yeah.
Well, I think that
I have to ask, Richard, did you watch the second Lego movie?
Yes.
That song, Gotham Guys, I wrote it. No. Written for me.
When the very first one, the Lego Movie 1, when that character was introduced, that's the first thing I thought of was Iron Man versus Batman at B2B. I said Angela would love this. She would think it is great.
When the Batman Lego movie came out and I heard that, what's the password? Iron Man sucks. I went, oh my God. This was our movie. And then they came back with Lego Movie 2 and she sang, I'm just not into Gotham City guys. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. Oh, everything I hate about Batman summed up in musical song. I could not be happier. Like, I love it. It makes me so happy. I'm composed.
Have you watched? I know you don't watch TV, Angela, but have you seen Titans yet?
I haven't seen it yet either.
Titans.
Not
to be confused with Attack on Titan.
No. Teen Titans. Teen Titans.
No.
But not the goofy cartoon Teen Titans.
Okay. The 1960s version, Titans?
No. This is brand new. Mm-hmm. It's on the DC channel.
Oh, I would not watch that crap. I hate DC.
Oh, no, you might like it.
No, I've not watched DC. I've not watched Titans.
You might like that.
What am I thinking of? Am I thinking
Robin, Starfire, Raven?
Nope. In fact, my husband was watching something, and I'm watching it. He's watching Suicide Squad. Here's how the conversation goes down. Are you watching Batman? No.
I just saw Batman.
But this isn't Batman. No, it's Suicide Squad. So, is it Batman? No, Suicide Squad. But that's not Harley Quinn? Oh, that's Harley Quinn, but it's not Batman. Husband, are you watching Batman? No, I'm watching Suicide Squad. What the hell is Suicide Squad? It's Batman. Okay. So then I asked Google, and Google told me Yes, he was watching Batman. All I wanted to know was whether or not I should sit and watch or leave the room. I left the room.
Huh.
It's like, I just want to know, should I watch? Oh, I'm not watching that crap. Yeah,
No,
So-
it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.
Let's
DC,
rein it
you
in
gotta
a little.
You got to rip DC away from their standard,
yeah.
Superman versus Lex Luthor
So
series that never ends. It continues.
I have
New Superman movie. Who's he fighting? Lex Luthor. Luthor's got kryptonite rock. Oh, okay, Superman 2. Luthor's got a stick now made out of kryptonite. Superman 3. He's got a slingshot. It's like, and it's like, Lex, you've been trying to kill this man for, what is it, 60-some years now? No, more than that, 80-something years.
Yeah, way back in the radio days.
You continually have the only thing that can kill him, and yet you can't do it. And you want me to respect you as an arch villain? No. You got one job, and you can't do it. Screw you, Lex. No.
This is great. This is great material. Has nothing to do with writing, I promise. But
Well, it
Yes,
does
it
in a
does.
sense. It
Yes, it
does
does.
because it's characters and it's
We need to
the
rename
creation.
you need
Yeah.
to rename this.
Yes,
This
it
needs to be
does.
something like learning and experiencing writing through DC and Marvel. So, is it Marvel or Marvel?
It depends what planet you're on.
Depends
Jason?
on if you're in Britain or if you're in America.
I feel like
Well,
I've just met you. I think I
Well,
have. I'm not
Mar-
sure. We're
Marvel is a proper noun. It's a name, so that's pronounced Marvel.
So
Marvel.
it's Captain Marvel.
Well,
Which
we call her Captain Marvel, but her name is not Brie Larson. Yeah, her name's just Brie Larson.
Close.
But yeah, she was that name Marvel came off of the
That was actually, I think, the scientist
but she was actually a Kree scientist, wasn't she?
Marvel.
Yeah.
Marvel.
I will say, after I watched Captain Marvel, I did do a whole, okay, it's official, Nick Fury is better than Batman and Iron Man because he's a cat lover and he just waited to do good. He's gonna do good when he saw
Yeah.
this. I'm like, oh yeah, the side that we never saw of Nick Fury. He's a cat lover.
All right. Well, we've got about 10 minutes left, so I just want to kind of I want to get back into things here just for a little bit before we close it on out. On character writing, when you're writing your characters, the research that is done on your world and the writing your world, does it have a large impact on how you write your characters?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, your world dictates what your characters do, what they are. In my books, my characters are. All right, in the last book, they had just discovered gunpowder, so that's where they're at in history-wise, in their world. So yeah, my land, the world around those characters has to be rugged, because it just has to be. Because I say so. It's my world. But yeah, I mean, one village is set on the edge of a bay, so naturally it's a fishing village. But it's also a shipping village, so you have two sets of people in there, and your characters have to relate to this and that. It's all interwoven, but it works.
I would
But
say
yeah,
very easily that my character would not be who she is without the environment, the landscaping, the world around her. Like, it absolutely plays a massive part in who she becomes and what she grows into. Absolutely.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think actually the opposite, guys. I think that with my characters are what they are might be defined by their environment. You know, if I'm writing a book that takes place on some alien planet, and they are aliens, that's going to define what they are. But who they are is always defined to me by what they've gone through in their journey, what they've gone through in life, even if it's before the story starts. You know, so it may be an alien on Venus but they might still have the same kind of experiences that a child on Earth would have, and the same kind of insecurities and physiological problems that come from being, you know, someone with a lot of anxiety or depression, or a cat that stands in front of their camera, you know, things like that. So while their physical form may be altered by their environment, I think that who they are, who the character actually is, that's determined by their experiences.
Okay, I have now in the first book of my series, my character she was 12, and because of the environment, they were traveling from the main city back to their village. Because of the environment, take a hit for me.
I will.
They were Shanghai.
I'm in Michigan. It's all legal, man.
Yeah,
They banned it here.
turned legal here. So yeah, that's why I said as long as I got the dispensary, I'm fine. Right to the dispensary.
Totally derailed him there.
Richard and I are sitting in New York.
Oh, you're scared, man.
Yeah, we'll be the last.
So anyway, in this travel, because of the rough times, they're waylaid, and she and her brother are outside of the camp when it happens, and she winds up basically killing one of the guys that are attacking the.
Well, there goes the spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler alert. It's 3 books ago. If you're not at that point yet, don't bother. But,
do you ever feel bad about spoiling your own book in conversations like this?
No.
Continue.
But I'm sorry. But anyway, at any rate, she's 12 years old. She kills a guy, and I have somebody come in right after it happens, an authority figure from the military, and this figure tells her, you can't be a child anymore after what you just did. You did something that a grown person does. And when my wife was reading it, she got to that point, and all I hear in the other room is, wow, what an asshole. And I'm like, okay, who? And she tells me, and I'm like, well, yeah, because, she's military. She doesn't know. She doesn't have a filter. She doesn't know how to be, anything but crass. But at any rate, because of this incident, my character ends up becoming an alcoholic. Now, so there's an example of the environment playing a part in creating who you are.
I'm glad you brought this up. So let me ask you a question here. Was it the environment around her at the time that caused her to kill someone, or was it the actions of that man that caused her to kill him?
Well, it was the environment in that the land was wild. The land is still wild. The people are barely past.
My question is, what are we defining here as environment?
I think that's there is a distinction there that needs to be made. The environment does influence us, but we all do make our choices. So if some man came to her to try to maybe hurt her or the other travelers, I haven't read the book, and she defended herself by murdering him, I wouldn't blame the environment around her, but more
the actions in the environment.
But that's not to say the environment doesn't breed people like that. I mean, if you grow up in a rough environment, you're a rough individual.
So
Usually.
is a culture environment. Are we talking about landscape? Are we talking about atmosphere? What are we talking about?
Have you guys ever played D&D? Do you know what that is?
Oh, God. Here we go. At that point, I'm going to stop us. And
We still have 2 minutes left.
Well-
There's a whole lot of shit I can
2
get
minutes.
into in 2
I can
minutes.
say a lot in 2 minutes.
right, but I want to make sure everybody knows where they can find you when the show is over.
Okay.
So we'll start with ladies first because we saved the best for last in the beginning.
I am available at angelabchrysler.com. If you like what you see here, you will probably like what you find there. So angelabchrysler.com.
Where can we find you, Jason?
Do the cloud thing again and then present. It was
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. You can find me
Through
at
the cloud.
jnlavelle.com.
See,
Or
there
just-
you go.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful cinematography.
Yes.
That's
That
awesome.
was that shit. I can't pass that. I can't.
Yeah, that's the bar. Now jump.
Yeah, I'm done. I can't
That's
top
the
that.
bar, Ed. Jump.
Yeah, but she is kind of violent down there.
It's funny because I
She's a
started.
Valkyrie.
I started at a mousy little box like, hi.
Yes.
Where can we find you, Ed?
And Homestead. I have a website on Wix. I don't make enough money to afford a real website. If you people out there would chip in and do your part, maybe, I could get something fancy.
Dude, a domain name is like $10.
That's why you have
a
a
year.
fan.
Yeah, I know.
That's like 75 cents a month.
Yeah. Yeah, but I have my website on Wix. I have my books on Amazon. Oh, and, just for the hell of it, I wrote a cookbook.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Nice.
but it's kind of like having like a psycho, like Norman Bates, cooking with Norman Bates.
Yeah,
Oh, boy.
Look over there at Angela. Yeah.
I literally have Bates Motel paused on my TV behind me right now.
Cooking with Norman.
Oh, that's
All right,
fun.
you can see me at authorrichardwhite.com. And thank you all for joining us. Thank you for being on the show. I highly appreciate it.